Hey everyone, get ready because today we're going to dive into something pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Building your own social network.
Awesome.
You heard that right. We're talking about taking control of your online presence, creating a space that's truly yours using Web4 Lite from Linkspreed.
That's right.
And the best part, you can do all this using a device you probably already has,
Mm-hmm.
the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, it's amazing how much power we have with these little devices. They're so affordable.
Right.
We're really talking about shifting the balance of power back from those big tech companies back to individuals.
Okay, so we've got this whole stack of guides and documentation on how to make this happen, but we're going to distill it down to the essentials so you can really see the big picture without getting bogged down.
Yeah,
Think of it like building with Legos.
I like that.
We've got all the pieces, and now we're going to show you how they fit together to create something amazing.
Each component is so
Oh,
crucial.
exactly.
And really understanding how they work together. That's key.
Yeah. We'll start with the foundation, setting up your Raspberry Pi.
Okay.
Then we'll transform it into a web server
Right.
using Apache and PHP. And to make it all accessible,
Yeah.
we'll be using Cloudflare, which is like a secure tunnel connecting your network to the wider internet.
Cloudflare is particularly interesting because it allows you to not have to worry about a static IP address,
Right.
which is a big barrier to entry for people who want to host their own services.
I'm already feeling empowered just thinking about it.
Yeah,
So first up,
let's do it.
the Raspberry Pi setup.
Okay.
What I love about this is you don't need a supercomputer to run your own social network.
Yep.
A Raspberry Pi, which only costs about 20 euros, is more than enough.
Affordability is key.
Yeah.
It makes this whole thing accessible.
So you'll also need some external storage, either a micro SD card or an SSD.
Okay.
And we'll be installing a lightweight operating system called Raspberry Pi OS Lite.
Right?
We're going to go with the 64-bit version. It's designed for efficiency, perfect for a web server.
And it's really cool because during the setup process,
Yeah.
you can actually personalize your Pi
Huh?
by setting the host name, the username, the password,
I like it. So
like customizing your little digital domain.
once our Raspberry Pi is all set up,
Right.
we need a way to control it remotely.
Oh, yeah.
That's where SSH comes in.
Right.
Have you ever wanted to feel like a system administrator managing servers from anywhere in the world?
Oh, yeah.
Well, with SSH, you can.
It's awesome.
SSH, or Secure Shell, allows you to securely connect to your Raspberry Pi
Uh-huh.
and send commands just as if you were sitting right in front of it.
Yeah, this is essential for managing your server without being physically tethered to it.
So now that we can access our Raspberry Pi from afar,
Okay.
the next step is to build the foundation of our social network, the web server.
Right.
This is where Apache 2 comes into play.
I like to think of Apache 2 as the engine that powers your website.
Okay.
It's responsible for handling all those requests from users and serving up those web pages that they see.
I'm already envisioning my own bustling online community.
Mhm.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, what's that setup process like? Is it something that requires, advanced technical skills?
Actually, it's surprisingly straightforward.
Okay.
The guide provides really detailed instructions, and package managers make the whole process really smooth.
So once we install Apache, how do we know it's actually working?
Great question. After you install Apache, you can test it by simply visiting your Raspberry Pi's hostname in a web browser,
Okay.
and you should see the default Apache page,
Gotcha.
which means the server's up and running.
Okay, so we've got our Raspberry Pi set up. Apache 2 is running smoothly. What's next?
Now comes the fun part, adding dynamic content with PHP.
PHP. Tell me more.
Well, think of a static website like a brochure. It provides information,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really interact with the user.
Right.
PHP is what brings websites to life.
Okay.
It allows for those interactive elements like user logins, comment sections, all those dynamic features that make social networks engaging.
So PHP is essential for building a social network where people can interact and share and connect.
Exactly. And since Web4 Lite, the software we'll be using for our social network is built with PHP.
Okay.
Installing it is a must.
Got it. So how do we make sure PHP is playing nicely with Apache 2?
Similar to Apache, testing your PHP installation is easy.
Okay.
You just create a simple PHP file, upload it to your server, and view it in the browser. If you see the expected output,
Okay.
you're good to go.
So now we've got this powerful little Raspberry Pi humming along,
Right.
running Apache and PHP.
Uh-huh.
But how do we let the world access our awesome social network?
That is where Cloudflare comes in.
Okay.
It acts as a secure tunnel to your Raspberry Pi server.
Okay.
Think of it as creating a private pathway from the outside world directly to your network.
So Cloudflare keeps my data safe from prying eyes while also making my social network accessible to others.
Yes, exactly.
Sounds like a win-win.
It is, and the setup involves just a few steps, like registering a domain name, creating a Cloudflare tunnel, and mapping your domain to your Raspberry Pi's Apache server.
I'm really starting to see why you compared this to building with Legos.
I know, right?
Each step builds upon the previous one, and we're
Yeah.
creating something really complex and powerful brick by brick.
And while we're on the topic of security,
Yeah?
Cloudflare initially uses HTTP,
Okay.
but the tunnel itself is secure. And to make it even more secure,
Okay.
we'll be adding HTTPS and SSL.
So even though it uses HTTP, the tunnel is already secure.
Yes, but HTTPS and SSL encryption
Right.
are like adding a layer of armor to your communication,
Okay.
making it virtually impossible for anyone to eavesdrop on those conversations or steal sensitive information.
I see. I'm starting to understand why security is such a big deal when you're hosting your own social network.
Absolutely.
It's not just about protecting my own data.
Right.
It's about protecting the data of everyone who joins my community.
Exactly. You're building a space where people can feel safe and confident sharing their thoughts and ideas.
I'm feeling more and more confident with each step we take.
Yeah.
So we've got Cloudflare set up, our secure tunnels in place, and we're about to add HTTPS and SSL.
It's exciting.
What's next?
Now it's time for the grand finale. Deploying Web4 Lite, the social networking software that will bring your community to life.
Okay, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Walk me through it.
Okay, first we'll need to clear out the default web content that comes with Apache. Think of it like clearing a building site before you start construction.
Okay.
Then we'll clone the Web4 Lite repository from GitHub, which is essentially downloading the source code for your social network.
So GitHub is like a blueprint library for software.
Exactly. Once we have the Web4 Lite code,
Yeah.
we'll configure it to work with our server setup. This might involve setting up a database, which is like creating a filing system for all the data your social network will generate.
Databases sound kind of complicated.
Yeah. Don't worry, the GitHub repository provides really detailed instructions for setting up and configuring the database.
Oh, good.
Think of it as an instruction manual that guides you through each step.
Are we limited to just one version of Web4 Lite?
Great question. One of the beauties of open source software is you have options.
Okay.
The GitHub repository actually has different versions of Web4 Lite to suit various needs and preferences.
So I can explore and choose the version that best aligns with my vision.
Absolutely.
This is incredible. It's like we've been handed the keys to the kingdom,
It really is.
and we can build whatever we can imagine.
That's the spirit. Embrace the world of open source.
Yeah.
Tweak things to your heart's content, and enjoy the satisfaction of creating a social network that is truly your own.
Now, before we move on, there's something I have to ask.
Okay.
I was doing some research, and I stumbled upon some information about a project called Web4 at Home.
Yeah.
It seems like Linkspreed is working on something that could make hosting a social network even easier.
It seems so, yes.
Hold on, this is big. Let me grab another notepad.
Okay.
What kind of Raspberry Pi are they using for this project?
Well, they are currently experimenting with a few different models, including the popular Raspberry Pi 3 Model B.
Okay.
It's a nice balance of affordability and power.
So they would provide the Raspberry Pi pre-configured with all the software,
Yeah.
and people can just plug it in and start building their social network. That's revolutionary.
It is.
What about the software itself? Are they sticking with Web4 Lite?
It seems they are focusing on Web4 Lite, yes, and they are actually considering releasing a new open source version specifically designed for Web4 at home.
Wow, so they're providing the hardware, the software, and the guides.
Right.
This could be huge. This would make building your own social network accessible to anybody, even if they don't have a lot of technical experience.
That's the goal.
I can't wait to see how this unfolds. Well, folks, if you want to stay up to date on Web4 at Home, be sure to check out Linkspreed's website. But for now, let's get back to our deep dive into building a social network the classic way.
Right. So far, we've covered setting up your Raspberry Pi,
Right?
configuring your server with Apache and PHP,
Yeah.
setting up that secure tunnel with Cloudflare,
Right.
and getting ready to deploy Web4 Lite.
I'm excited to keep going.
Yeah, but that's just the beginning.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll explore the exciting world of community building,
Yeah.
content creation, and crafting a social network that thrives. Welcome back. In part 1, we covered setting up our Raspberry Pi web server, securing it with Cloudflare, and getting ready to deploy Web4 Lite.
Right, it's like we've built this amazing house,
Yeah.
but now we need to fill it with life and laughter and, meaningful connections.
So true. It's like that saying, if you build it, they will come.
Right.
Doesn't always apply to social networks.
Not necessarily. Building a successful online community takes careful planning,
Yeah.
nurturing, and a deep understanding of what makes people tick.
Okay, so where do we even begin? What are some key things we need to consider when building our community from scratch?
Well, I think the most important thing is to understand your audience.
Okay.
Who are you trying to reach? What are their interests, their needs, values? What kind of content will resonate with them?
So it's not just about throwing open the doors and hoping for the best.
Right.
We need to be really intentional about who we're inviting in.
Exactly. It's like planning a party. You wouldn't just send out invitations to everyone you know.
Right.
You would carefully curate your guest list based on, shared interests, personalities,
Right.
the kind of atmosphere you want to create.
I love that analogy. So let's say I want to build a social network for book lovers.
Okay.
What are some specific things I can do to attract and engage that audience?
Well, you want to make sure your platform's design and branding reflects the interests of bookworms.
Okay.
Maybe incorporate imagery of bookshelves, cozy reading nooks, literary quotes.
So it's all about creating a space that feels welcoming and familiar to your target audience.
Right. And then you think about the kind of features and functionality that you offer.
Okay.
Maybe you could create virtual book clubs or, host online author events or even incorporate a book swap feature.
Yeah. Those are all great ideas.
Yeah.
It's about providing value and giving people a reason to not just join,
Right.
but to stick around and participate.
Content is king.
Right.
You need to provide a steady stream of high-quality content that your users are going to find valuable and engaging.
So we're talking about articles, blog posts, videos, maybe even podcasts about books and literature.
Absolutely. And don't forget about user-generated content.
All right.
Encourage your members to share their book reviews, reading lists, even just their thoughts on the latest bestseller.
That's a great point. The most successful social networks are the ones that empower users to be creators, not just consumers.
100%. Give them the tools to express themselves, share their passions, and connect with others who share their interests.
So we've got our platform looking sharp. We're creating awesome content. We're encouraging user participation.
Right.
Is that all it takes?
It's a great start,
Okay.
but there's more to it than that.
Okay.
One crucial aspect we haven't talked about yet is moderation.
Moderation. I've heard some people say that moderation stifles free speech and creativity. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a valid concern, and it's a delicate balance to strike.
You're right.
While it's important to encourage open discussion and diverse viewpoints,
Yeah.
it's equally important to create a safe and respectful environment for everyone.
So moderation isn't about censorship. It's about creating a space where everyone feels comfortable participating
Exactly.
without fear of harassment or abuse.
It's about setting clear community guidelines and enforcing them fairly and consistently.
So we need to think carefully about the kind of behavior that we want to encourage and the kind of behavior we want to discourage.
Right, and it's not just about setting rules, it's about fostering a culture of respect and inclusivity.
Okay.
This could involve highlighting positive contributions, promoting respectful dialogue, and addressing harmful behavior promptly and effectively.
It sounds like moderation is an ongoing process, not just a one-time task.
It is. It requires constant vigilance, adaptability, and a willingness to evolve your approach as your community grows and changes.
So how do we actually put all of this into practice? What are some practical tips for moderating our social network effectively?
One important thing is to establish those community guidelines that outline acceptable and unacceptable behavior.
Okay.
These guidelines should be easy to understand, accessible to all members,
Yeah.
and enforced consistently.
So it's like creating a social contract for our community.
Exactly.
Everyone knows what's expected of them, and there are consequences for breaking the rules.
Right. And it's also important to have a system for reporting and addressing violations.
Okay.
This could involve a reporting mechanism for users to flag inappropriate content or behavior,
Yeah.
as well as a clear process for investigating and responding to those reports.
I'm starting to see how moderation can actually enhance a community,
Absolutely.
not just restrict it.
It's about creating a space where people feel safe,
Right.
respected, and empowered to participate authentically.
And remember, moderation isn't just about dealing with the negative.
Right.
It's also about celebrating the positive.
Yes. Acknowledge and reward positive contributions, promote healthy discussions, and create a culture of appreciation and encouragement.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the social and ethical aspects of building a community.
Right.
But what about the business side of things?
Yeah.
Can we actually make money from a self-hosted social network?
That's a great question. While Web4 Lite itself is open source and free to use,
Right.
running a social network does involve some costs, hardware, electricity, maybe even bandwidth, depending on how many users you have.
Right.
So how do we make it sustainable?
Yeah. Do we have to resort to annoying ads?
Right.
Or selling user data like the big social networks?
Not necessarily. There are alternative approaches that align with the values of a community-driven platform.
Okay.
One option is to rely on donations or subscriptions from your users.
So if people value what we're creating, they can contribute financially to keep it running.
Exactly. Think of it like public radio
Okay.
or community-supported agriculture. People who believe in the mission are willing to chip in to ensure its sustainability.
I like that it's all about shared ownership
Right.
and responsibility.
What are some other options for generating revenue?
Yeah. What else?
Another approach is to offer premium features or services for a fee.
Okay.
This could include things like enhanced privacy settings, advanced analytics for content creators,
Right.
or priority support.
So we're not restricting access to those basic features,
Right.
but offering additional value for those who want to pay a little extra.
Precisely. And transparency is key.
Yeah.
Be upfront with your community about how those funds will be used to improve and maintain the network.
Transparency builds trust, which is essential for any successful community, online or offline.
Absolutely. And remember, you don't have to choose just one approach. You can experiment with different models and find what works best for your community.
That makes sense.
The key is to be creative, flexible, and always focused on providing value to your users.
Okay, this is all making a lot of sense.
Good.
But there's one more thing I'm curious about. What about the legal side of things? What kind of legal considerations do we need to be aware of when running our own social network?
That's a crucial question. Even though you're hosting your own platform,
Right.
you're still operating within a legal landscape with rules and regulations governing online content,
Right.
data privacy, and user safety.
So we can't just do whatever we want just because it's our own little corner of the internet.
Exactly. You need to familiarize yourself with the laws and regulations in your jurisdiction
Okay.
and ensure that your platform complies with them.
Can you give me some specific examples of what we need to be mindful of?
Sure, a few key things to consider are data privacy,
Okay.
content moderation, and intellectual property.
Gotcha.
You'll likely need a clear privacy policy outlining how you collect, store, and use user data.
So we need to be transparent about what data we're collecting and why, and get their consent before collecting any personal information.
Right. And when it comes to content moderation, you need to have clear guidelines and procedures for dealing with illegal or harmful content like hate speech or harassment.
It sounds like running a social network comes with a lot of responsibility.
It does. You're essentially creating a public forum,
Right.
and you have a responsibility to protect your users and ensure that your platform is used for good.
Okay. I'm definitely getting the message. Building a social network is more than just setting up a server and deploying some software.
It is.
It's about building a community, fostering positive interactions, and being a responsible steward of the digital space that we create.
Well said. And with the right approach, it can be an incredibly rewarding experience.
I'm already starting to feel that sense of reward, but there's one more area I want to explore.
Okay.
The potential role of artificial intelligence in shaping the future of social networks. I know this might sound a little futuristic, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this.
It's an exciting area of exploration. Imagine leveraging the power of AI to enhance user experiences, personalize content recommendations,
Right.
and even identify and mitigate harmful behavior.
Hold on. Are you saying AI could help us create a safer, more engaging, more personalized social network?
It's certainly within the realm of possibility.
Wow.
Think of it like having a virtual assistant
Okay.
that helps you manage and curate your online community.
Is this something that's actually feasible right now?
It's more than just science fiction. Companies like Linkspreed are already making significant strides in integrating AI into their platforms.
Huh.
They've developed tools like Snacks, Knox, and Oxygen, which use AI to enhance content discovery, user engagement, and online safety.
Snacks, Knox, and Oxygen. Tell me more. What do those tools actually do?
Well, Snacksnox is an AI-powered content recommendation engine that helps users discover relevant and engaging content.
So no more endless scrolling through irrelevant posts.
Exactly. Snacksnox would serve up content that's actually interesting and relevant to you.
And what about Oxygen?
Oxygen is an AI-driven browser that prioritizes privacy and security.
Oh.
It uses machine learning to block trackers and ads, protecting user data, and ensuring a safer browsing experience.
So AI can not only help us personalize content and enhance engagement, but it can also make our social network safer and more private.
That's the idea, and as AI technology continues to evolve,
Right.
we can expect to see even more innovative applications emerge.
This is incredible. We're talking about a future where social networks are not just platforms for connection, but intelligent ecosystems that empower individuals and foster positive change.
It's a vision of the future that is both exciting and empowering.
We've covered a lot of ground in part 2, from community building and content creation to moderation, monetization, legal considerations, and the future of AI.
It's been a whirlwind of information, but I hope you're feeling as inspired and empowered as I am.
I definitely am. But before we dive into part 3, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll be discussing how to launch your social network, grow your community, and ensure its long-term success.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've covered a ton of ground, from the nitty-gritty of setting up your Raspberry Pi server to the mind-blowing possibilities of AI in online communities.
And in this final part, we're going to focus on what happens after you hit that launch button. Remember, building a social network is a marathon, not a sprint.
So true. Now that our network is live and our community is starting to grow, how do we keep that momentum going? How do we make sure our social network stays relevant, engaging, and doesn't just become another ghost town?
It's all about constant evolution, adaptation, and really understanding your community's needs and desires, which are always changing. Think of it like taking care of a garden. You got to nurture it, prune it, and adapt to whatever comes your way.
I'm getting a sense of the long game here. What are some strategies we can use to keep our social network fresh and exciting for the long run? Feedback is your secret weapon. Ask your community what they love, what could be better, and what new features they'd like to see.
So no more guessing games, right? We got to actually listen to our users and make their ideas happen.
Exactly. You can get feedback through surveys, polls, forums, or even just by encouraging open conversations. Make it easy for them to share their thoughts.
Okay, we've got all this valuable feedback. Now what?
Now the real work starts. Analyze that feedback, figure out which suggestions would have the biggest impact, and then take action. Not every idea will be possible, but even small tweaks can make a big difference in how happy and engaged your users are.
So it's about showing our community we're listening and taking their input seriously.
Actions speak louder than words, right? And don't forget, the digital world is always changing. New tech, new user expectations. What was cool yesterday might be old news tomorrow. You got to stay ahead of the game.
Adapt or die, huh? But how do we actually stay ahead? It feels like a constant race.
It can feel like that. But remember, innovation isn't always about jumping on the latest trend. Sometimes it's about using what you already have in a new way or coming up with totally new approaches to building community.
So got to be resourceful, creative, and not afraid to experiment. What are some practical ways to encourage that kind of innovative spirit in our social network?
You could create a space within your network just for brainstorming and sharing ideas. Get users to suggest things, vote on their favorites, even work together to develop new features.
It's a community think tank. I like that.
Exactly.
Right on.
Also, don't underestimate checking out what other online communities are up to. What are they doing right? What can you learn from their wins and their not-so-wins?
So learn from the best, right? Steal like an artist.
You got it. And remember, innovation isn't just about adding bells and whistles. It's also about deepening those human connections, making your social network more than just a bunch of profiles and posts.
Now we're talking. How do we do that? How do we bring in that human element?
Storytelling. Encourage people to share their stories, their experiences, their unique perspectives. Highlight cool achievements, celebrate good deeds, and show how your network is making a positive difference in people's lives.
I love that. Stories have this power to bring people together, make them care about each other, and give them a sense of purpose.
And don't be scared to play around with different formats, different ways of telling those stories. Host live Q&A sessions with interesting folks in your community, make video series showcasing user-created content, heck, even start a podcast that tackles topics your network cares about.
Wait, a podcast within our social network? That's like Super meta.
Exactly. It's about getting creative and giving your audience something valuable.
Okay, I'm in. But let's be real, building a thriving online community is tough. It takes serious time, energy, and dedication. How do we stay motivated and avoid burning out?
That's a real struggle for a lot of community builders. The key is to celebrate those wins no matter how small. Celebrate the milestones, recognize your members' contributions, and take a moment to appreciate all the good you're creating.
It's about focusing on the positive and reminding ourselves why we started this in the first place.
You got it. And remember, you're not alone in this. Build a team, share the load, don't be shy about asking for help. There are tons of resources out there to support people building social networks.
Collaboration makes all the difference. It's amazing what we can achieve when we work together towards something we believe in.
And as you go on this journey, always remember what you want your social network to stand for. What kind of impact do you want to have on the world?
Wow, that's a big question. It makes me think about how online communities can bring people together from all over, give a voice to those who aren't always heard, and spark real change in the world.
Exactly. Your social network can be so much more than just a place to share selfies and updates. It can be a force for good, a place for real conversations, and the starting point for positive action.
It's about using the power of our community to make the world a little bit better, a little kinder, a little more connected.
And it all begins with a vision, a commitment to doing things the right way, and a belief in the power of human connection to make a difference.
Well, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into building your own social network. It's been an amazing ride, and I hope you're leaving feeling inspired and ready to take on the world.
It's been an honor to share this exploration with you. Now it's your turn. Take what you've learned, embrace the challenges, and build something truly incredible.
Go out there and create, build your network, nurture your community, and never stop pushing the boundaries. Remember, we're all connected in this digital world. Let's use that connection to make a positive impact.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep building the future you want to see.